Magna Carta, often referred to as the Great Charter, is a cornerstone document in the history of constitutional law and human rights. Its significance lies not merely in its immediate impact but in the enduring legacy it has left behind. Sealed in 1215, this historic document marked a pivotal moment in the struggle for liberty and justice. Historical context: King John and the barons. The year was 1215, and England was in turmoil. King John, facing mounting pressure from his barons, was struggling to maintain his grip on power. His arbitrary and oppressive rule had led to widespread discontent among the nobility. The barons, seeking to curb the king's authority and secure their own rights, convened at Runnymede and presented King John with a list of demands. The sealing of Magna Carta, 1215. These demands were compiled into what would later become known as Magna Carta. In June 1215, at Runnymede Meadow, King John reluctantly affixed his seal to the document, acknowledging the rights and privileges it granted to his subjects. However, the king's acceptance was not genuine, and he soon sought papal support to annul the charter. King John's struggles. King John's struggles did not end with the sealing of Magna Carta. Faced with pressure from the Pope and ongoing unrest among the barons, he sought to undermine the charter's provisions and maintain his absolute authority. However, his efforts were met with resistance, leading to further conflict and instability. Barons' rebellion. The barons, outraged by King John's attempt to undermine Magna Carta, rose up in rebellion. This conflict, known as the First Barons' War, would ultimately lead to the reissue of Magna Carta and the establishment of constitutional monarchy in England. Despite the challenges they faced, the barons remained steadfast in their commitment to upholding the principles enshrined in Magna Carta. Key provisions of Magna Carta. Magna Carta contained a number of key provisions aimed at curbing the king's power and protecting the rights of the barons and clergy. These included provisions related to taxation, due process of law, and the protection of property rights. One of the central aims of Magna Carta was to limit the arbitrary exercise of royal authority. Limiting royal power. By establishing the principle that the king was subject to the law and could not act without the consent of his subjects, Magna Carta laid the groundwork for the development of constitutional monarchy in England. It represented a significant shift in the balance of power between the monarch and his subjects, setting the stage for the emergence of democratic governance. Protection of rights. In addition to limiting royal power, Magna Carta sought to protect the rights and privileges of the barons and clergy. It guaranteed the right to a fair trial and prohibited the arbitrary seizure of property by the king. These provisions were instrumental in safeguarding the liberties of the nobility and ensuring that they were not subject to the whims of the monarch. Initial reception and annulment. Despite the initial optimism surrounding Magna Carta, King John soon sought to undermine its provisions. With the support of the Pope, he declared the charter null and void, plunging England into renewed turmoil. However, the principles embodied in Magna Carta could not be so easily dismissed, and they would continue to resonate throughout English history. Reissue and legacy. Following King John's death, his son and successor, Henry III, reissued Magna Carta in an attempt to quell unrest among the barons. Although the reissued charter was substantially revised, its core principles remained intact. Magna Carta's legacy would endure far beyond the medieval period, shaping the development of constitutional government and the protection of individual rights for centuries to come. Magna Carta today. Symbol of law and justice. Today, Magna Carta is revered as a symbol of law, justice, and human rights. Its principles have influenced constitutional development not only in England but around the world. The legacy of Magna Carta can be seen in the development of modern concepts of human rights and constitutional government. Influence on human rights. Magna Carta's influence on human rights extends far beyond the borders of England. Its principles have been enshrined in documents such as the United States Constitution and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. From the American Revolution to the struggle against apartheid in South Africa, Magna Carta's legacy has resonated with people seeking freedom and equality in every corner of the globe. Challenges and progress. While Magna Carta represented a significant step forward in the evolution of governance and human rights, it's important to acknowledge that the journey towards achieving its ideals has been fraught with challenges and setbacks. Throughout history, individuals and communities have continued to fight for their rights in the face of oppression, injustice, and tyranny. Continuing the legacy. As we reflect on the sealing of Magna Carta in 1215 and its enduring significance, it's essential to recognize that its legacy is not confined to the pages of history books. Magna Carta serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle for justice, equality, and the rule of law in societies around the world. Global impact. The impact of Magna Carta extends far beyond the borders of England. Its principles have inspired movements for democracy, human rights, and constitutional government around the world. From the American Revolution to the struggle against apartheid in South Africa, Magna Carta's legacy has resonated with people seeking freedom and equality in every corner of the globe. Challenges ahead. Despite the progress that has been made, there are still many challenges ahead in the fight for justice and equality. Authoritarian regimes, political corruption, and social injustice continue to threaten the rights and freedoms of individuals around the world. In the face of these challenges, it is essential that we draw inspiration from the example of Magna Carta and remain steadfast in our commitment to the principles of liberty, equality, and the rule of law. Looking to the future. As we look to the future, it's important to remember that the principles embodied in Magna Carta are not static or immutable. They must be constantly reaffirmed and defended by each generation. Whether it's advocating for the rights of marginalized communities, fighting against political oppression, or working to address the root causes of social inequality, there is still much work to be done to realize the vision of a more just and equitable world. Conclusion. In conclusion, the sealing of Magna Carta in 1215 was a pivotal moment in the history of governance and human rights. Its principles have left an indelible mark on the course of history, shaping the development of constitutional government and inspiring generations to fight for justice and equality. As we commemorate this historic event, let us reaffirm our commitment to upholding the ideals of Magna Carta and working towards a world where freedom, dignity, and the rule of law prevail. FAQs. What were the immediate consequences of Magna Carta's sealing? The immediate consequences of Magna Carta's sealing were limited, as King John sought to annul the charter shortly thereafter. However, its principles would later be reissued and have a profound impact on the development of constitutional government. How did Magna Carta contribute to the concept of the rule of law? Magna Carta contributed to the concept of the rule of law by establishing the principle that the ruler is subject to legal limitations and must govern according to established laws and principles. What challenges did Magna Carta face in its early history? Magna Carta faced challenges from King John, who sought to undermine its provisions, as well as subsequent monarchs who attempted to evade its limitations on royal authority. How did Magna Carta influence later constitutional developments? Magna Carta influenced later constitutional developments by serving as a model for the protection of individual rights and the establishment of limitations on government authority. What can we learn from the legacy of Magna Carta today? The legacy of Magna Carta teaches us the importance of holding those in power accountable, protecting individual rights, and upholding the rule of law as essential pillars of a just and equitable society.